Welcome to the series of Relational Database Management System. Myself is Fatima Rafiq, Assistant Professor, Abida Namda Senior College, PCA Department. Today, we will be starting with a new unit that is concurrency control. In the concurrency control, we will be covering these many topics, that is lock-based protocol, lock, granting of lock, two-phase locking protocol, timestamp based protocol, which includes timestamp ordering protocol, and Thomas Wright rule. And then we will be covering the topics regarding deadlock handling, that is deadlock prevention, detection, and recovery. So without any further delay, let's start with the unit number 4, that is concurrency control. Concurrency control is actually a mechanism. It depends on the serializability property. Concurrent execution of transaction means various transactions are executing simultaneously. Though there may be a possible situation where one transaction is actually interfering the another transactions. So to make sure that one transaction should not affect the another transaction, for these particular purposes, we will be using some mechanism, and that mechanism is nothing but the concurrency control mechanism. In concurrency control mechanism, we'll be having a different kind of mechanism that we can implement with the transaction. That is, number one is log-based protocol method. Number two is timestamp based protocol method. So the first method which is used for concurrency control is log-based protocol method. So we will be starting today with a log-based concurrency control mechanism. What is log-based protocol? Common method to implement the mutual exclusion. We know that whenever a transaction is running, the transaction which runs simultaneously is actually running in the context area of a main memory. If one transaction is running at the same time, if another transaction comes and it requires the same data item which the transaction which is before it is executing, at that time there may be a possible situation where one data item is getting modified by the two different transactions. So that's why we implement a method which is called log based method. What are different type of lock method? What is lock? A lock is a variable which is associated with the data item that describes the status of item with the respect of possible operation that can be applied to it. Like for example, if I have transaction T1 which require data item A, so at that time I'll be taking a lock because because the transaction T1 is wants to read, so it will apply the lock on a variable A for a particular purposes. In this case, it is a reading. There are two mode of a lock. Number one is binary lock. Number two is shared and exclusive lock. What is binary lock? A binary lock is a lock which is either is having a status as lock or unlock. It means that the lock variable can have only two possible value, that is 0 or 1. 0 in case the variable is lock, 1 in case if the variable is unlock, it is available for rest of the transactions. Number 2 is shared lock. A shared lock or exclusive lock. If the transaction Ti has obtained a shared lock mode denoted by S on the data item A, then the transaction Ti can read but it cannot be write. The name itself give you a hint. Shared means what? The multiple transactions are able to share the data item A. And we have already seen this case in the conflict serializability where we studied conflicting pair. We know that whenever the transaction is reading the data item, it does not create any conflict with the another data item, another transactions. So in this particular case, whenever the transaction is wants to read the data item, we will apply a type of lock which is called shared lock. Shared lock is also called as read lock. Then we have another type of lock which is called exclusive lock. If any transaction Ti wants to write the data item, at that time that particular transaction will ask for the exclusive lock on that particular item A. Like for example, if I have transaction T1 which is executing some statement and it require the data item A and it is updating the data item A, at that time we will not, the transaction will not occupy the shared lock, but it will ask for the exclusive lock. Exclusive lock is also called as write lock. Whenever the data item is locked with the exclusive lock, it is not shareable. Means the one transaction which is which had the exclusive lock will use it after releasing the data item. Then another transaction will come and the transaction can able to use it. Now the another type is compatibility of a lock. The It is defined as let we have A and B which represent the arbitrary lock modes. Suppose that Ti transaction lock the mode of A on data item Q and Tj hold the lock on data item B. If the transaction Ti can be granted a lock on Q immediately in spite of presence of the lock of mode B, then we say that A is compatible with B. Okay, in simple word, what it means that if you are running the multiple transaction, the transactions are transaction which is running is Ti and Tj, which occupy data item A and B. If another transaction comes and require data item A, and if we are granting the data access of data item A to that new transaction, so at that time we say that A is compatible with B. Here we are having one table. This table is not nothing but the compatible function or compatibility of lock. Here S represents the shared lock, where X is represent the exclusive lock. So it is like one transaction is already running. So this shared and shared is compatible. Rest of all transactions or all type of locks are incompatible. We will take the example to understand this. Suppose I have a transaction T1. I have transaction T1. The transaction T1 is occupying a lock on data item A, and let's suppose this lock is nothing but a shared lock. We know that shared lock means here the data item A is used by transaction T1 for reading purposes. Now another transaction come, that is a transaction T2. Transaction T2, and transaction T2 says that I want data item A and I also wants to read the data item A. Because this transaction T2 wants to read the data item, and we know that reading and reading is compatible, it does not create any conflict. So what we can do, we can give the access of data item to T2 transaction at the same time when the T1 transaction is already executing. So that's why we say that shared transaction and shared transaction is compatible. It is always true because it does not create any conflict, where in case of all other case this is not compatible. Why? Because here exclusive lock, we know that exclusive lock is also called as write lock. Whenever there is a write operation, if it is executing simultaneously with the another type of transaction, so write operation always creates a conflict. So here let's understand this with the example. Again, take the T1 transaction which is reading the data, which is writing the data item A. So whenever it is writing, it has to have a exclusive lock that is represented by X. Now the another transaction T2 comes, and then T2 transaction says I want the data item A, but I also want it for a writing purpose or for reading purpose. But we know that whenever the T1 transaction is executing its instruction, and if it wants to change or update the data item A, means data item A, the value of data item A will not be shareable because it is in a writing mode. So at that time all the operation, whether it is a reading or whether it is a writing, we are not giving a grant of these type of lock to another transactions. So that's why it is incompatible. Here comes false. Remember, read is it is compatible, rest of all type of lock is incompatible. So this is all about locking. We'll see further more topics in the next lecture. If you have any doubt, write in the comment box. Thank you.